Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we are talking about delivery drivers who make their living on apps like Instacart, Doordash, and Grubhub say they're being booted with little warning or recourse. So one of my subscribers ended up emailing me about this article that Business Insider wrote. BC, thank you so much for emailing me about this and making this video possible. And we've all known that mass deactivations have been a thing for a long period of time, and people who get deactivated for less than no reason is embarrassingly too high. So with that said, I want to go over everything that's being said in this article, how it actually is for Doordash, UberEats, Grubhub, Instacart workers, and their corresponding platforms that they may or may not have been deactivated for, and everything in between. So with that said, let's get started. Last fall, an UberEats worker in Oregon was delivering a pie when the customer changed the drop-off location. The new destination would have turned a 10-minute trip into an hour-long drive for him, so he contacted UberEats support and asked whether or not he could drop the order. The agent on the other end approved it, he told Insider, and assured him that it wouldn't negatively affect it. A few days later, his account was deactivated. He suspected it was the dropped order that triggered the deactivation. When any company does that, and UberEats is particularly bad with this, especially with their account notice system being so absolute trash, as well as their support system that says they do their job but actually is just setting you up to fail. It's really embarrassing that continuously happens. And then the customer on this side of things doesn't even get any kind of repercussions because it was their order to begin with. All of a sudden, it says my account is under investigation for fraud, he said. It just says fraud. It doesn't give any details. That's because they don't want to have any sort of legal liability. They will withhold as much information from you as possible until it inevitably turns south. The Uber Eats driver estimated he spent the next 2 months exchanging messages with dozens of support agents, but none could restore his account. Most reiterated that he had been deactivated for fraud, but declined to provide specifics, according to the screenshots he shared with Insider. You see, this is why you need to opt out of arbitration, so that way when this happens, you take them to court, and either they have to prove it's fraud, or they have to reactivate your account. And honestly, it's bad already that they have to do that. It is really ridiculous. Sudden, unexplained deactivations have become a commonplace for workers on gig delivery apps. According to accounts from these workers, in many cases, workers' options for getting back on an app are limited to binding arbitration or appealing by email according to the terms they agree to when they start delivering orders. Again, that's why you gotta opt out of arbitration. That's why you gotta diversify your gig portfolio. That's why you gotta have an exit strategy so you're never too dependent on any one gig app. It's for your protection at the end of the day. It's not just it's a good financial move, or oh, it's food delivery, or oh, the amount of money you make. None of that is really the answer. It's you could be deactivated like that for less than no reason, and getting back on is an absolute nightmare. And in most cases, not even worth the time and energy. Insider spoke with 8 gig workers who have been deactivated. The contractors worked for Uber Eats, Instacart, Doordash, and Grubhub. Every gig app has these problems, though. I've had a problem with Delivered. You can also be deactivated from Deliver That, Veho. All of those other gig apps, they have arbitration agreements in them. You just gotta be sure to opt out if you can, or even just have an exit strategy so none of that matters anyway. And that way you're never too dependent on gig apps to begin with. Nearly all described being deactivated suddenly, including after minor issues or problems beyond their control, such as traffic while en route to a customer or being accidentally charged for an extra item by a retailer. Many were booted without explanation or a chance to deny or defend themselves. The only state that actually has changed that as of recently was Washington. BC also sent me an article about that as well, but I try to avoid hyper-local articles, especially if it has to do with politics, and especially if it has to do with politics in an area that I'm not familiar with. with. But Washington drivers can actually fight to have their accounts reactivated on Uber. So good on Washington for the step in the right direction. Some of the workers spoke on condition of anonymity, citing professional repercussions. Their identities are known to insider. Removing a driver's access to the Uber platform is a serious decision, and we do not take it lightly, an Uber spokesperson told Insider. Yeah, who you trying to fool with that, bro? The company said it took appropriate and proportionate actions against those who violated its community guidelines. If that were actually the case, then there wouldn't be literal states coming after you. You're full of nonsense, and that is the biggest BS that any gig worker can attest to. You're full of nonsense. And that goes for every platform. The process companies follow for deactivations is often unclear. When they sign up to work for delivery apps, gig workers agree to terms and conditions that dictate missteps that can lead to deactivation. Stealing orders or harassing customers are obvious examples. And if you're stealing orders and harassing customers, you should be deactivated. You're making us look bad. In most cases, it's literally less than that. Like, very much less than that. And a lot of it which is not within our control. Instacart, for instance, says that it can immediately terminate its contract with a shopper for various reasons. Those include specific offenses such as regularly failing to deliver complete orders to customers, as well as broader ones such as engage in or encourage fraudulent conduct. Its website says. Well, if you commit fraud, that's one thing, but not failing to deliver complete orders to customers, what does that even mean? Like you forgot an item or something, or an item wasn't available in the store, so suddenly we're at fault for that? Come on. Or the customer says they didn't get an item that goes on the shopper. Like, what is that? But the workers Insider spoke with said they've been removed from apps for vague reasons and small mix-ups, including some that didn't appear to be their fault. That's 99% of cases. Some of which is actually due to some massive glitch that the apps actually have. And they say they reactivate all of the drivers, only to reactivate most of the drivers, even some of the drivers, just pretend the other ones aren't to be reactivated at all. They're scum. They always have been scum, and they always will be scum. In February, Steve got what appeared to be a form letter from Grubhub, an app he'd spent 2 years delivering for. The email said his service falls below the industry standard for like services in the region, in direct violation of his agreement with Grubhub. In accordance with Section 11 of the Delivery Partner Agreement, you will no longer be contracted to perform delivery services with Grubhub going forward, it added. This decision is final and you will not have the opportunity to appeal the termination. You see that? That right there. That's a whole lot of nonsense. And a lot of people would say Section 11 is a whole lot of nonsense too, because they would just take an old contract from bizarre years ago that doesn't even apply to today and deactivate you for that contract, even though you've been on the platform for a really long time. That's why you need to actually opt out of arbitration. That's why you need to have Grubhub lawyers actually help you out because of that kind of nonsense. Steve, whom Insider is identifying by first name only, made his living delivering for Grubhub as well as Instacart and Doordash in Virginia. He said his attempts to reach anyone at Grubhub to get more answers were unsuccessful because they don't want to be liable. Because they know what they did is wrong. Because they just wanted you off the platform because you're good at what you do. Because of that, you're wrongfully deactivated and they don't want to be sued for that. There was not much of a process to it, he told Insider. They didn't give me an opportunity to dispute or appeal. It was one and done, which is really freaking sad. Jason Picone of Texas, another gig worker who spoke with Insider, received the same deactivation note in February after driving for Grubhub for about 3 years. It's been a growing issue for way too long, honestly. And the fact that they just keep getting away with it is disgusting. When Insider showed Grubhub the form letter Steve and Jason received deactivating their accounts, Grubhub said the message sent to drivers included an error when the company said there was no opportunity for appeal, which I'm pretty sure that's illegal. You need to have an opportunity to appeal. I'm pretty sure there's a law that literally said that. There's a dispute resolution process process outlined in our delivery partner agreement that's available to all drivers. So that notice was incorrect, and we're making sure it's corrected, the Grubhub spokesperson told Insider. We encourage those drivers to reach out using the process outlined in their contract if they want to dispute their removal. Basically, what they just said is they were exposed for doing something very illegal to begin with, and instead of actually taking ownership, they said, oh, it's a mistake that we made. And then burying how you can actually appeal so deep within their contracts that you have to actually really go through line by line in order to actually find the actual appeal process and then take that appeal process. It's embarrassing. Okay, so this article is actually much longer than a usual article, so I'm gonna break this up. I'm gonna leave this article in the description if you guys want to read ahead. Feel free to check that out. This is my opinion. It's worth what you pay for it. None of you pay me. There you go. Mass deactivations are the equivalent to a mass layoff from any other company. They're just gonna deactivate people. It's not always personal. Sometimes it is literally that personal. And they're deactivating people not because of the quality of the drivers, they do something shady, but because you became a liability. And they needed any opportunity they could to just wrongfully deactivate you. Put it this way, if they have enough yes men pretending to be gig workers, they will be able to do whatever they want anyway. Doesn't matter how much money they're losing on the drives. And sure, they may actually put some sort of message on the email saying there's not going to be an opportunity to appeal, but there definitely should be, and there definitely should be some legal disputes on it, but the fact of the matter is that day is just not today. And instead of trying to get back into these companies, let's be honest for a second. Why would you want to go back to a company that treated you like dog crap anyway? But it's also also another important point is this is why you diversify your gig portfolio. Make sure you're as spread out among gig platforms as possible. And that way you're not so dependent on any one app to make income. This is why you have an exit strategy, because the gig economy is an income bridge to what would be a long-term goal, not the goal. And they may say they don't take it lightly, but the fact of the matter is they do. Because if they actually weren't taking it lightly, they wouldn't be playing so many stupid games on the subject. All in all, just make sure you're financially protecting yourself as much as possible, because heaven forbid the next time this happens, it's you on the chopping block. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!